So when I started using CourseFlow for my asynchronous world, I thought of it like some sort of Gantt chart. What you see at the top, you see the preparation that I expect students would do, but more like kind of a pre-class preparation. These were the modules, these were the assessments, and I kind of linked it all to the 4 modules that I had. So thin lens, interference and diffraction, quantum physics, or specifically the photoelectric effect, special relativity, and these were my 2 projects. So I had a project where they have to describe a Nobel Prize that's related to photonics and the group sets. So in my mind, I had it all mapped out like this. So what you see kind of per week from week 9 to week 10 is how I would be presenting modules and expecting deadlines. So I started with my thin lens, then I went to interference and diffraction, and every week there's a bit of overlap. So in one week, you'd always get a one module that ends and one module that begins, and you'd have webworks in my daylight and some prep, and that would kind of bring us to the end of the semester. And that's how I saw it. But it's big and bulky. So with the help of Jeremy Chaquette, he kind of brought it down to look something like this. So then the students know in what order things will appear and what assessments they would get. So you start off with my thin lens, but that brings you down to a webworks that's linked to thin lens, and in my daylight that's linked to a thin lens. And then the asynchronous quiz that's linked to thin lens plus a part of their project. And then that kind of moves down from interference and diffraction, and then to quantum, and then special relativity. And again, every week there's overlap. One ends and one begins, but as one ends with webworks and daylight and a quiz, then one begins with some sort of activity, and that repeats for every week for about 4 to 5 weeks. And then what they're doing right now and until the end of the semester is just finishing up on all their projects and assessments. So
you can see how the pattern is repeating.
Exactly.
And also how the how the preparation fits with the activity, fits with the assessments as well.
Yes, yes. And I haven't populated these nodes, but ideally, if I were to click on one of these nodes, I could have links to the summary and links to the simulations and links to a FET and links to everything that would be pertinent. So the links I have already in the summary, but it could be easily accessible right through there. So a student can just click on thin lens and know exactly what it is that they should be working on, what documents they need to print out or to download or whatever. And I find this to be a very visual way for the students. So, you know, if I'm a student, I said, all right, the first task is thin lens. Yes, Rhys posted a whole bunch of other stuff, but my task right now is thin lens because I have these assessments coming up, and then next week I'm going to be moving on to something else. But I have some students who are super quick, and they're just going through these modules like crazy. Like, you know, some have done all 4 modules within 2 weeks, but that's fine. But at least they all know in what order they should be doing things. So I find this really interesting, and I guess I haven't updated the last part yet, but since that now we have a bit more time, most of these now appear probably more in week 15. So if I were to add a week, oh, it appears as a week 7, but I can add this to.
Oh, so you can just move the things around and
exactly
readjust.
Yes,
okay.
Exactly. So this year should be week 15. There we go. And now I moved it because at one point we were told that our deadlines weren't as strict as we thought they were. Our students were, it was certain they were not returning to the labs at Vanier. So then I added a week to most assessments. So I could just do that right now. And now the students would know. So again, I find that to be a very visual way to show the students what's coming up in what order. yeah, it's just I haven't shared it with my students yet. And the reason is when this whole crisis began, it was a panic for everyone. I did not want to add more technology or more platforms to them. But let's say in the fall, let's say that we will be doing this online in the fall. I would like to have CourseFlow set up from day one and be the tool that students would use if ever I were to do I don't know, an asynchronous 15-week mechanics course, then I would use that as my main tool to show students this is what you should be doing in this order with roughly these deadlines.
Phoebe, have you got anything to show us fired up?
Okay, so I've just opened up week 8, which was the first week I went online. Looks a lot like Rhys's in the fact that I've got the preparation column, an activity column, which is basically my lessons and labs, an assessment column in red, which are the things that they actually get marks for, although some of the preparation stuff they also get marks for. And then an artifacts column, which is the things that they can keep and use and refer back to. So all their learning guides are in here, as well as their lab reports. You can see that out of class they have reading to do. And as Rhys was saying, you can link, I can expand that if I click on it. And I can link to, if I click on that, you can see, for example, these should be their learning objectives, what they're supposed to get out of the reading. So all of that just from the CourseFlow. They can also link directly to the reading. Now, just to be clear, I haven't given this to students. I'm just practicing using it, and also to share with other teachers so they can see. Yeah, so they're, okay, so it wants me to sign in, but the reading assignment does open up in Perusal. Once they've done the reading, they do questions about the reading. So here we can link directly to the My Daylight reading questions. You can see the assignment there. And this is all before our first class. So then when our first class starts, we go to the review quiz. The review quiz would be based on what we learned the week before. And the neat thing about CourseFlow is it's layered. So this is at the course level. But if I go in here, click on this link that I made, I can see the flow of the two-stage quiz. So I've created this to show all the different aspects when everybody does what and how it works. And of course, I could also link to the quiz itself, although I haven't done that here. So
Phoebe, I noticed that when you scroll over there as an example, you have like little boxes that come up that seem to be competencies or?
Yeah, sure. So you can link every element to your competencies and your learning objectives within those competencies. It's down here on the right in outcomes. So I've created them specifically for this course using the ones we use in our department. And then for the reflection, I've already put 2 in, but if I wanted to add another one, I'd click down here, select tag to add. Here are all my performance criteria, and I would just pick whichever one applied to this specific one. Now there's a third one up there.
So you can just copy a block of your competencies in and then choose them to insert into this CourseFlow.
Yeah, and there's a nice feature with this toggle outcome view here, which shows you how many times and where each element of the competency was addressed in your CourseFlow. So you can kind of see, these are totals, but if I go here, so these are, I haven't done the 3rd unit on here, but you can see these are all the 1st unit, then the 2nd unit, the 3rd unit starts down here, and then on the far right, you get a tick mark if each one has been not only taught, like out of class or in class, but also assessed. So it gives you a nice quick view of any gaps that you might have unintentionally put into your course. And it just toggles on and off.
And those categories at the top, the preparation, activities, assessments, artifacts, do you choose those, or is that, I mean, do you get to name them, or are they built into the CourseFlow?
You can name them yourself.
Like
There's defaults, and then you can
rename
rename them.
Okay.
I think Rhys did a lot of that, right, Rhys?
Yeah, that's correct. I renamed them by module titles.
And then to insert one of those boxes, like it's
Here, I'll
easy to
drag
do.
and drop. So you see here on the right, you can do custom if you want to add a new column. But otherwise, say I had a assessment and I wanted to put it there, I just drag it in, and you can move it anywhere. And if it's not an assessment, you decide, oh, it's actually an artifact, you just slide it over. And then you create your links within it to anything else. You can also duplicate your nodes. So if you've already got something and you want exactly the same thing somewhere else, you just duplicate it. And you can also duplicate entire weeks or whatever categories you're using to organize.
It seems very, very flexible, actually.
Yeah, and that's something that makes it really unique and probably a lot better for online teaching, especially in times of crisis when things keep changing and you have to keep making changes.
I think that's, just comments. You have actually, you can put in, I guess, estimated time or the course, the class time maybe, or?
Yeah, well, you can use it how you want. It's a relatively new feature that we requested. So here on the right, whenever on any of these nodes, you can just type in how much time you think this particular thing should have attached to it. I like that a lot for my lesson planning, because specifically within the individual. So this is a lesson. This is one class's lesson, and I can just, it helps me to see how much time I'm going to devote to each and whether or not I've overestimated how much I can get done.